piece of me?
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Good morning, Vietnam! I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I feel the need for speed.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
You do. You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
Happy Wednesday, moviegoers. Welcome to a brand new episode. Welcome to episode 249. Welcome to E.T. and welcome to the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Juan. I am joined by the cast, Zach.
Back from the dead. What's going on, guys?
Back from the dead, and you know what? It is felt like I haven't seen or talked to you in like weeks. But that's because it has been.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is like I know you guys did a show. You guys did Spider-Verse last Monday, but it feels like weeks since you guys talked about that.
And
it's kind of weird.
It is. We talked about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse last Monday, almost a week and 2 days. But because of some foreseen reasons, for the past 5-6 years, we've been on Mondays, but now from going forward, we are on Wednesdays. So you guys can listen to this episode wherever you listen to podcasts at, starting Wednesdays at 9 p.m., or you can watch us live here on the Emisawa Productions YouTube channel, 5:30 Wednesday evening, afternoon. What would you call it? Are we in evening yet?
Yeah, 5 o'clock. I say 5 o'clock on is evening, so yeah, we're good. So I'm sure someone will correct us. Say, "Hey, you wrong." So,
but you know what? You could be listening to us in the UK, like a lot of our listeners. We have listeners from all across the world, and I think they're surprised that it's taken us this long to talk about E.T. Before we get into E.T. though, Zach, small thoughts on Across the Spider-Verse. Did you get to see it yet?
Yeah, I did get to see it. Loved it. I'm kind of in the middle between you and Craig. I think you gave it an 8. He gave it a 10. I'm gonna give it a 9. My only nitpick of it is it's just a little long. I don't know if it needed to be 2.5 hours long, but the animation is beautiful. It's very picturesque, and obviously it sets it up very well for the third one for next year. So
you can tell it's summertime.
Yes.
When I'm drinking shit like this.
CTO.
Yeah. So Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, great conversation with Craig last week. Go back and listen to it wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also check us out on the social media. Some summer giveaways are going to be getting ready to start getting back on. Digital copy is going to be given away. So check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/The Cine-Men Movie Podcast. The Instagram is all one word, The Cine-Men Movie Podcast. The Twitter is at Cine-Men405. And the email, cinemen921@gmail.com, which emails return back next week as well, along with a new top 5, which will be announced at the end of this episode. But, Zach, let's talk about some recent watches, man. We haven't seen you in a few weeks. Is there anything that you want to talk about that maybe you might recommend to anybody?
Yeah, I got like a laundry list, so I'll just run through these and we can talk about them or not. Cocaine Bear. No, that's all I watched. No, I'm just kidding.
I love Cocaine Bear.
I feel like it's one of those movies, if you don't go along with the premise, then you're going to hate the hell out of it. I was kind of 50-50 on it. So, Champions with Woody Harrelson about the special needs basketball team, thought was really good. Very heartfelt. You're going to laugh.
Okay.
I wouldn't saw.
I'm going to ask this about Champions. Would you peacock it or would you buy it?
I peacocked it and I was like, I'm good. I don't need to see it again. So,
okay.
I mean, like I said, I thought it was a really good movie. Woody Harrelson gives a very, very good performance, but I don't think I'd ever watch it again. You're gonna laugh. I went and saw Fast X on Memorial Day. Gotta admit, it was not as terrible as 9. I actually enjoyed it a little bit better. So we'll see about 11. Apparently 12. There's gonna be a 12th, so we'll see.
Oh my god.
Marlowe. It was a Liam Neeson like 1930s gangster flick. It was fine. Shazam: Fury of the Gods. Check it out on HBO Max, or Max as it's
Max.
called now. Not bad, honestly. I didn't like it as good as the first one, but it was still a fun film.
Yeah, I was
Um,
that was one of my recent watches last week, and I gotta admit I had fun with it. I thought
yeah,
I thought since it wasn't as long as the first one, I kind of enjoyed it a little bit more.
yeah, I would agree.
So
And it like the trailers really made it out to be very cringy, and I didn't think it
yeah,
was cringe at all.
it was
So,
way better than Black Adam,
oh yeah, by 50 miles.
which I still bought Black
Um,
Adam.
Eats your own. Whatever you want to do, man. Reality, an original HBO Max movie, thought was very good. The Mother with Jennifer Lopez, Cross the Spider Verse, obviously. Went and saw Transformers, Rise of the Beast, The Boogeyman, The Little Mermaid. TV wise, I'm caught up
Golly,
on. Yeah,
I
dude, I've
want to
been.
talk to you. I want to talk to you. So out of those three, Boogeyman, Little Mermaid, Transformers, what's best or worst?
Best is probably The Little Mermaid.
Mm.
Although my criticism, it doesn't need to be too 15. There's just no. Transformers it was all right. I think the taste of the last Michael Bay movie is still in everyone's mind, but this is more of a prequel. It kind of follows like the Bumblebee with Haley Steinfeld movie, and the Boogeyman. I had high hopes for it. It kind of fizzled out at the end. So, TV wise, I caught up on The Bear, so I'm ready for the new season next week. And I started watching How I Met Your Father, the spinoff to How I Met Your Mother with Hilary Duff. That's Lizzie McGuire. Not bad. It follows the same premise essentially, but and The Good Doctor, which is it's not a spinoff, but it's from the creator of House. It's about a doctor that has autism. Really good. So yeah, yeah. I have a laundry list, man. So, and
I'm trying to
obviously,
keep up. In 11 days, I've binge watched 4 seasons of The Big Bang Theory. Uh,
nice.
I'm going through all that again just because I've never seen season 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, if I miss that many, I'm just gonna restart from the beginning.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you?
3,000 years of yawning. Should be called 3,000 years of yawning.
Oh, is that the Idris Elba movie where he's
Yeah,
like a genie? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It feels A24ish, but it's like it's just not very entertaining to me.
It's from
Um,
George Miller, who did Mad Max Fury Road.
you know what
If
is
that,
entertaining, and I think it's just because I love this actor and sci-fi, just sci-fi-ness. I loved 65.
oh, okay.
Yeah, with Adam Driver.
Yeah,
I thought it was
I
fun.
saw,
It was only an hour and a half.
which really helped.
Yeah.
I think I talked about it with you on the phone not too long ago. It was like a mix of Interstellar and Jurassic Park, and I think you would get that.
Uh,
I didn't hate it. I think I wanted a little bit more from it. I guess maybe I had my expectations too high.
Operation Fortune. I'm a Jason Statham whore.
Yeah.
So that was a fun watch for me. I'm also going through the Transformers movies. I sat through Bumblebee, Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, Dark of the Moon, and I'm trying to finish Age of Extinction. Um,
Hmm.
and then I've
You get
never
through
seen
you get through those, man, or you might be extinct by the time you get to the last night.
I've
So,
never seen The Last Night, but I'm dreading the 2 hours and 50 minutes.
oh,
I don't
dude.
know why. Yeah. And then I checked out E.T. just a little bit ago for today's episode. So
Yeah.
if I had to recommend anything, isn't The Big Bang Theory on Max?
Yep.
Go rewatch The Big Bang Theory. I also checked out the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Oh,
Um,
what you think?
I liked it a lot. I watched it once with me and myself and the girlfriend, and then I watched it with the kids yesterday. And you know what? I enjoy it every time the last 2 times I've seen it. It's really enjoyable. It's a fun movie. I like the tease at the end.
Yeah.
I like how they're actually Brooklyn citizens, and then they get thrown into this Super Mario universe,
Yeah.
which I thought was cool. And on my watch list, I still have Renfield. I still have John Wick Chapter 4, and I still have
Mm,
other few new releases that I'm trying to rewatch this week.
nice.
So
Yeah, I didn't get to talk about it. I saw Super Mario in the theater, and I'll be honest, I'm not a Super Mario person. Like I maybe played the game like 10 times in my entire existence, but I had a lot of fun with it. I know there's like 8 bazillion Easter eggs in it, which I'm sure if you're a fan, you would probably catch them. Um, but I know a lot of people had a problem with Chris Pratt as Mario, but it worked. I didn't question it. So I think the best voice performance was Jack Black. I thought he was just like awesome as Bowser. So
Uh, but let's get into today's episode. If you guys have anything that you want us to watch or recommend, email us at cinemen921@gmail.com. I'll be reading out some emails next week when we talk all about the Flash. But today we're talking all about E.T. IMDb has it at a 7.9, Rotten Tomatoes at 99%. The Google users like it at 79%. And then I believe the Metascore is 91%. A troubled child summons the courage to help a friendly alien escape from Earth and return to his home planet. Starring Henry Thomas, Drew Barrymore, Peter Coit, Dee Wallace, uh, Robert McGahan. I don't know how you spell his last name.
McNaughton,
McNorton, Nick
McNaughton, McNaughton,
or McNatt.
McNatt.
And then written by Melissa Matheson and directed by Steven Spielberg. Zach, you are the Steven Spielberg fanatic. The budget for this, which was I find amazing, $10 million, and so far at the box office, with all the re-releases, the box office is at $792 million.
Yeah.
We talked to Fablemans earlier this year, so we one would almost say we almost could have dedicated the year to Steven Spielberg, but we could have, but we did not. What do you think, man? This is one of your all-time favorite movies. Do you remember the first time you saw this, and what was it like revisiting it for the podcast?
So I was actually terrified of this movie as a kid, and I have a theory why when we get into the discussion. I couldn't even watch it. The first like 15 minutes absolutely terrified the hell out of me. Scared of ET, but as I got older, it was just like, you realize it's an animatronic. It's a man in a suit, essentially. Oh, there you go. There you go.
ET right there.
But the older I got, I started realizing, this is, it evolved from this is a pretty good movie to this is an excellent movie. I actually saw this twice in the theaters. I saw it on the 20th anniversary re-release, and I saw it last year celebrating its 40th anniversary. I took a date who had never seen the movie, so it was interesting to get her perspective on it. But yeah, I mean, this movie, I totally agree. Top 5 Spielberg, honestly, if you could, quantify it that way. Yeah, can't wait to get into it. What about you?
So, this movie's always been around for me. My mom loves this movie. Anytime that it was on TV, it was TNT, TBS, whatever it was always on there. If the TV randomly came on VH1 or something, the movies that always Turner Classic, whatever the fuck it is, it was always playing. But the first time I really probably sat down and watched this was probably 2012, 2013. When it first came out on Blu-ray, I sat down, I bought it when I was working at the video store, and I sat down and watched it for the first time. And I was like, you know what? I like it. I know it's a classic. These some odd years later, rewatching it on the 40th anniversary, getting the 4K edition, it's still the same thing to me. I don't know why. I like it. I can watch it. I know it's a classic, but I'm not in love with it.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it, but it's kind of just a weird situation for me, just because I enjoy everything. It's a 2 hour and 50 or a 1 hour and 52-minute movie, 155. But we'll talk about it today. And you're right. The first 15 minutes is creepy as hell.
and I contribute that to the amazing John Williams score. I mean, that score is just unbelievable. It makes you it creeps you out. It makes you cry. It gives you like hope. It like energizes you. There's just a lot of moving aspects to that score, and I mean, obviously, it won the Oscar for best original score that year. Um,
It won
but
4 Oscars, but it did not win Best Picture. I'm almost trying to remember what won that year. Was it Gandhi?
you want to? Yes, Gandhi won best picture that year, which I can't say anything. I haven't seen that movie, but I'm pretty sure people know E.T. more than the movie Gandhi. So it's just kind of weird how that works.
I've owned it, but I've never seen it because the girth. Gandhi's girth scares me.
Yeah, it's very girthy.
Um,
We're just gonna sit here and talk about Gandhi's girth for the next like 30 minutes.
speaking of things with the letter G starting, you get Drew Barrymore's first film as she
Yeah,
plays is it Greta?
Gertie.
Girthy. I mean Gertie. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Turned into a
Um,
whole another podcast.
but why do you think this movie is so special to not only you but like so many other people? And it's essentially a boy meeting an alien who, you know, I'm not gonna say they fall in love with each other, but they care for each other, and the boy
Mhm.
helps the alien get home. They they bump fingers together. You know, they do the fingering thing. Which, by the way, I have to say, watching it this time around, what if that was E.T.'s way or the alien's way of
Don't do this. Don't
making
not do
bumpies,
this.
making bumpies with somebody?
I don't know. Man, you're gonna simultaneously destroy and like sexualize ET. I don't understand this. Um, you know
But no,
what?
all
I
seriousness, what do you think it is? All these years later, 41 years later, people are
yeah.
still talking about this thing.
I think it's a combination of two things. I think it's one, this was like Spielberg's third or fourth movie. I think he had done Jaws, he'd done Close Encounters,
Drive.
um, Drive, and I think this is shortly before. It was either before or after Raiders of the Lost Ark. So um, there's a lot of personal aspect to it. I know before The Fablemans, this was his most personal film that he had ever done, given the subject matter of divorce, which in the special features, there's a great like 10-minute documentary with him. He was at the time he was writing a documentary about divorce, and then he kind of thought about at the end of Close Encounters the alien goes home, but he was like, what if it did go home? Like, how would that, how would that play out? And I think the other part of it is essentially it's just about friendship in a weird way. It's not there's not all these moving pieces. It's just about a kid who doesn't really fit in. He's trying to deal with his parents' divorce, and he comes across this alien figure who is not homesick. That's not the right word, but he is misplaced in his universe, and I think that bond is very strong up to obviously to the end of the movie, which I'll admit it, I cried my eyes out when we got to that scene. But I think it boils down to just friendship, and everyone has always had that friend who made him feel safe or made him feel secure that everything's gonna be okay. So
And sitting here watching this movie today, I was like, let's start it. I was gonna take notes like I normally do, but for this one, it was just like you sit back and you enjoy all the played out scenes that used to be in so many different commercials, whether it be the Pepsi commercials, Super Bowl
mm-hmm.
commercials, Reese's Pieces commercials,
Yeah,
but beer commercials. All these scenes playing back to back to back. It's almost like you weren't watching a movie. It was just you're. I don't know. It's weird. It's just it was continuous to me, and it's
yeah,
even though it's one of those movies that I'm not in love with, I still love everything about the scene. It's almost it's almost like that that family member that you probably don't like, but you still love them.
you respect him. You
Yeah.
respect him a lot.
Or
Yeah,
or the like an I don't know, but like to me, it's just one of those. It's a timeless classic that some people consider, one of the greatest Alien movies, or one of the, like you said, one of the greatest Spielberg movies. Um, I will say, watching it on 4K today, it was stupendous. It looked
Oh, was
really,
it
really good. Yeah.
nice? I think what really set this movie in motion was just the opening sequence. You have the creepy John Williams score with the credits, and then you see the spaceship for the first time. And I like how Spielberg. It's a very Spielbergian trope of not really showing the creature or the monster um, until a certain point, which I didn't notice this until this rewatch. But ET, obviously, in the beginning, ET is always like at wide angle, wide view shots, or like the elbow, the hand, the back of the head, or whatever, until um, Elliot lures him into the house. But the character that actually has a Spielberg effect, the Spielberg trope, is Keys. You never ever see Keys other than obviously them jingle on the pants until they actually get to like the quarantine scene, and he's like dressed up in the hazmat suit, which I found really interesting. And
Uh,
and at the end of the day, he's really not even a villain, to be honest.
you talking about the main guy who told Elliot he dreamed about this since he was 10?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was like, he kind of, ET has those long basketball arms,
Yeah.
and he kind of looks like, if like he kind of looks like an NBA player, but like turned into one of the Monstars from Space Jam. Because like
Again,
he's on this planet, and like gravity pushes him down, but his arms stay the same size.
simultaneously destroying and making fun at the same time.
Um,
Maybe the Miami Heat needed him in the last couple of weeks, so
yeah,
maybe it would have turned out differently.
they're a joke.
What do you think about Elliot as a character? Do you like him, or do you think he's just kind of like whiny, or what do you think?
No, I think he's needed. It's not cliche, but like this movie doesn't work if you don't have a fun, lovable kid, who
Yeah.
wears his heart on his sleeve. Just like this movie won't work if you don't feel for the alien. And when I say
Yeah.
he wears his heart on his sleeve, like you can tell he's real passionate, whether it's like, going outside and dropping the pizza, or calling his brother penis breath, or going and dealing with the frogs. The frog scene, I think, is one of the best scenes of the movie.
Yeah.
I know. So I like Elliot, and even though the actor didn't really portray much after this, and I don't think that none of that matters. It's like
No.
Elliot is to E.T. what Batman is to Robin.
Yeah, that's true. And I also like the supporting characters of Gertie, very young Drew Barrymore. I like the brother Mike, even the mom, who I think maybe is given like maybe 10 minutes of screen time.
She ain't given enough screen time there,
Yeah. Well, you should see her see what she looks like now today and now. But even the mom, who only gets like 10 minutes of screen time, I think she still has a lot, like has a very emotional arc of. She's very much like the mother who doesn't really pay attention to her kids, but she knows they're around, type thing. By the time we get to the contamination, the quarantine scene, and Elliot's like almost dead and ET's almost dead, it's just like, well, that's fantastic. And it's just, I think it's like the realization of, oh, so this just wasn't make believe or whatever, that this is a real thing that's going on.
I was a little confused onto how she can afford all this shit being a single mom.
Yeah.
I mean, she got a Cadillac, or what is that, a BMW out in the yard.
Yeah.
She's got a big, nice home. She's got copper pans. I don't know if you saw that, but she has copper pans, bro. That shit's one is expensive. She had like 6 or 7 of them.
Hey, listen, if you start questioning the money ethics of 80s movies, then you're not really paying attention to the movie, man.
I mean, it's all about those copper pans, and she had them.
Copper pans must have been in during the day
No, they're
during
still
that
in. They're
time.
still in now. They're just super expensive. Um,
Johnny
you got.
goes by Dillard's and he's like, I want those one day.
I
So,
mean, but yeah, that's another thing about '80s movies. I don't. And let's talk about that for just a minute, because there's so many '80s movies out there like E.T. that everybody
yeah,
is just so in love with, and they're like, "Oh, greatest of all time, go, go, go," and I'm like, it's okay. Like Goonies, people are obsessed with
love
the
it.
Goonies, but
It's fine.
I've watched it and I'm just like, no, it's okay. And I know people probably like, oh, you're a '90s kid, so you probably think about that more '90s movies. I'm like, no, there's a lot of '80s movies I love, but there's also a lot of '80s movies that I'm just like, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we did
Breakfast Club.
the Breakfast Club. I think that was back in like 2019 or something like that. But like, you asked us what makes this movie so great. I'm just like, I mean, I get the persona of you're living your high school years, and everyone fits in that clique as it is. But it's just like I've seen the movie twice, and I'm just like, I'm good. I mean, I get why it's a classic, but it's just not one that just like resonates with me like ET does, or um, you know, even 16 Candles or something like that. So
Yeah, but no,
he
E.T. to
did.
me.
Oh, I know what your favorite 1980s movie is. Howard the Duck, bro. I
Oh
know that's like up in
no.
your top 10 list.
Yeah, because I loved seeing a duck get laid by a female.
God,
Um,
I don't know. If we ever talk about that, I'm quitting the show. I'm not doing it.
you know who?
I can't.
Steven Spielberg had his hand in that.
Like as a producer or something, I'm just like, dude, you're so much. He's so like, listen to this run. So he did Duel. He did The Sugarland Express, which is like one of his lesser known films. Jaws, Close Encounters, 1941, Raiders, E.T., Temple of Doom, Color Purple, and Empire of the Sun. And Last Crusade. That was like all in the 80s. He did Raiders, E.T., Temple of Doom, Color Purple, Goonies, Empire of the Sun, Last Crusade, and Always. That's a that's a hell of a list, to be honest. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty impressive. And he also was the producer. I guess he did like a movie for the Twilight Zone movie, and he was a producer on Poltergeist, the original Poltergeist.
Oh yeah, like
So
the cover of that movie said Steven Spielberg's Poltergeist.
yeah, a lot of people say he directed it, even though he didn't. So that's just weird.
Yeah,
But
it's like you're stuck in the Poltergeist.
what do you think about all the Star Wars references? I didn't really pick up on that until this, like the Greedo and the Yoda, and like I know like he's friends with George Lucas, but it's just like okay,
I
I
think
guess
that's
Star Wars had come out.
I think that's all it was just paying, tipping the hat to you.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
like
they're all part
helping
of.
me out with this.
Yeah, they're all '80s buddies. They all went to
Yeah,
school together. They're all directors together. Them and what Francis Ford Coppola.
Scorsese. Yeah, Brian De
Yeah.
Palma. Yeah.
Um, but I mean, it's kind of hard to just take a movie like this and break it down when it's been out for 41 years and it's considered an all-time classic. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's just one of those that like it's to me it's there, and is this one of those movies that you have to revisit every year?
No, not every year. Like before, I went and saw it for the 40th anniversary last year. I think I'd seen it. I don't know, a year or two before that. So it's not one that's just like in constant rotation at least once a year. It's just one that. Oh yeah, I forgot Spielberg. Spielberg's ET. Yeah, let's put that on. It's just kind of like a spur of the moment type thing.
What about how about trying to get people to watch it? It's to me, whenever you get somebody to watch it, they look at it and they're like, it's okay. Like if they didn't grow up on it or if they just have heard about it, it's just one of those
Yeah.
movies that like it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, to kind of put some backstory to that last story, I took a date that a girl I was seeing at the time went and saw it. Her brother was obsessed with the movie as a kid, but she had never seen it. and I was just like, let's just get, I want to take you to this because I think you might like it. And we walked, we went and saw it. I asked her how it was, and she loved it. I mean, she had never, like I said, she had never seen it. She knew what it was, but never. I don't know if she didn't have the desire to see it or what, but she really, really, cared about it. And like, I just kind of just leaned, like looked over at her just at different points in the movie, and she had tears running down her face, like when ET is on, sick and he dies, and then the ending scene, which is like top 10, top 5 crying scene of all time. So do you think the movie, do you think it's too heavy handed? Because I did read a review saying like, oh, this is like Spielberg like tearing up heartstrings, when it really doesn't need to be that strong.
What are you talking about? Like when you think the alien dies, or when he turns into like a powdered donut?
Yeah, a powdered donut, or when he says goodbye to Elliot at the end.
No, I don't think it was too sad. I don't think it was too, I don't think it was too
Heavy-handed.
emotional. No,
Yeah.
that's why you go to the movies. That's why you want to get lost in something like that.
Yeah. The bike chase I thought was cool at the end. So just because I'm just that nerdy about it. I could actually tell you on the 20th anniversary when it was re-released, they actually added like new visual effects for it, like how they did for the original trilogy for Star Wars. There's a lot more scenes with Elliot and ET, like when he fakes being sick so he could stay home with them. The opening sequence when he's running from Keys and his crew, it's actually changed it to be a CGI ET, which it looks fine, but like the idea of him just kind of coming towards the screen like in a very fast motion works a lot better. And then at the end of the movie where the bike chase happens, he replaced the shotguns with the flashlights. So it's just like, he just did some little nitpicks. It's not like Lucas where he actually like redid the whole entire freaking movie. He just spliced some things and tried to make it a little bit better.
So what about like with this 4K version? When I'm watching it today, they're actually shotguns and not flashlights. Does that mean that they just went back to the original cut?
Yeah. I think the version I have is the 30th anniversary, and I want to say that he put both editions on the Blu-ray, so I could be wrong, but it's a possibility. So, yeah, let's talk about it. The ending. Does it get to you? Like I said, I cried. It always makes me cry at the end. It's just the combination of the performances, the situation, and the John Williams score. It's just a perfect trinity to make me cry.
I mean, it's emotional, but probably not, because especially since I really didn't see this movie until I was like 23.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it all the way through until then, but I don't know. It's just what were we talking about a few weeks ago? Passion of the Christ. There's there's some scenes in there that made some other people tear up, and I'm just like, it was like, I didn't get any emotion towards it. Same thing with ET today. Now next week, talk to me about when Michael Keaton's on screen. If I get teary eyed, who knows? But I think it is one of those things. I think
best emotional experience next week.
I think it all has to do with childhood.
Yeah.
I think if you watch this movie when you were younger, and maybe you were going through some stuff, or some of the memories of the movie gives you some memories with some other people, then when that movie comes on, or when that score comes on, then you're going to get emotional. Like mine, for example, would be Indiana Jones. Um, I didn't see it when it came out in the 80s, but it was a movie that my dad always etched in my mind, one of his favorite movies. I hated that fucking song growing up. And then, now that he's not here anymore, it's one of those, like, that's one of those movies. So maybe, I think maybe E.T. might be like that for a lot of people, maybe like that for you. But for me, like, it's, I don't get emotional. I can see why people would get emotional for it because it's kind of like Marley and Me, guy and
Yeah.
man's best friend. So um, it's yeah.
It's just a weird relationship I have with this movie because I was just so petrified of it as a kid, and then like as you grow up and just be like, wow, this is actually kind of good. It's not terrifying other than the first like 10-15 minutes. Um, and it just there's just something about it that's just like it has the I guess it's the Spielberg magic of like, you know, this, I'm not gonna say this could happen, but I'm just saying the reality of like an alien coming down and just like being left behind and like someone caring for it, like wanting it, like, you know, truly having the heart to care for it. I think, it's just that magic that you believe and you just never question it during the movie. And I
You,
think that's what makes it so powerful.
you know what I kept having references to during the movie, and maybe it's because I'm a father now and I have a 2-year-old almost, but I kept having references to my little boy. Um, with
Mm.
Elliot trying to take care and keep an eye on this little alien who doesn't really, understand. And I'm not calling him an alien, but
And I think you are, but
it's kind of the same thing. He's a little human that doesn't
yeah.
quite understand. I have to sometimes um, have him come here and drop Reese's Pieces down on the floor. Then he'll come to me slowly. Um, but it's also probably not. You know, I now only get to see them part time, so that's probably where the emotional factor came in for me today watching ET. But
Yeah.
I did think of the little the little booger whenever Elliot was trying to take care of ET. I kind of put myself in Elliot's shoes. I'm like, I got to do the same thing sometimes to a 2-year-old.
Yeah. Well, and I think the difference between you and Elliot is not really you don't set Reese's Pieces down on the floor. It's actually Taco Bell Dorito tacos,
Yeah,
and it just like
yeah.
it's like
Or,
it's a magnet.
or if I'm being serious, it's gummies, like little fruit
Yeah.
gummies. He's obsessed
Yeah.
with fruit gummies. So when ET was grabbing the Reese's Pieces, that's what I imagined. So
Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, I would put this in top five Spielberg films. I feel like it's a cop out to say that it's his best film because it's cool that this was nominated for Best Picture and he was nominated for Best Director. But I mean,
But I mean, let's
and
look. How can you sit there and say E.T., Jaws, Indiana Jones, uh,
yeah, well, that's what I was gonna
Jurassic,
get to.
Jurassic Park?
How dare you? No, but that's what I was gonna say. Like him not winning Best Director seems right because he's much more deserving of it later in his career with Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan. Those are just much more complicated films.
But
So
also, like, how can you sit there? It is like, how does one rank a number one Spielberg movie when you have all those different memorable decade films?
yeah, no, I agree. I mean, like I hate when you say let's do a top five Spielberg list. It's like, ah, damn, it's too difficult, man. It's just like, I mean, Jaws, E.T. I put E.T. in there. Jaws, E.T., Jurassic Park, Saving Private Ryan, Schindler's List. I mean those just in on themselves are just like, damn, those are just like really, really good movies. I mean, you just can't deny that. So,
And that's not even mentioning things like The Terminal.
like you said, right? Indiana Jones, War of the Worlds. I put Fablemans in there. Ready Player One, Bridge
I
of
keep
Spies.
I keep forgetting that Ready Player One is a Spielberg movie.
Yeah, the aesthetic, the cinematography is very Spielberg. Um, his next movie, if I'm not mistaken, he's doing a remake of Bullet, the Steve McQueen movie with Bradley Cooper, which I think that could be kind of cool.
Interesting, very interesting. Out of all people,
So
he'd pick Bradley Cooper.
yeah,
And
so we'll see.
Ready Player One, I haven't seen since I saw it in theaters, and then I saw it on Blu-ray. I haven't seen it since.
It's a fun movie. That's really fun.
Um, Speaking of fun, do you have any favorite scenes from E.T.? I know we could probably sit here and talk about the entire movie and all these scenes all day.
Okay, let's start with the opening credits. So like the font of the title. No, I'm just playing. Um, the drunk scene is really funny. It's a really cool scene. Like, and I like that aspect of it. Like Elliot feels what he feels, or it's just kind of like a portal into his world or whatever. It's kind of cool. Um, him cutting back. I thought it was a cool like cutting back sequence where ET is watching television, but it's also happening in real life with Elliot and the girl. That was really good. The interactions of Mike and Elliot, I thought were good. I think the goodbye scene is obviously, I could probably put that as my favorite scene, to be honest. But something that's just a little mundane is just him explaining the world. Him talking about like, this is food. These are cars. We drive in them. This is candy. We eat this. I thought was just really, like I said, it's a little thing to do, but it has a powerful, like it's like you said, like you and your son Johnny. It's just like you trying to explain the world to him, and that's
Yeah.
essentially what that is: a parent and child. So
If I had to pick some favorite scenes besides the classroom frog scene, um, I would probably say the drunk scenes, like you said, were fun. Um, the scene where they take him out in the Halloween costume is fun, and then that leads into the famous flying bike scene.
yeah,
So overall, it's kind of hard to pick a favorite scene from this movie, just because to me, even though this movie's 2 hours, like it flies by
yeah, it really
because
does. The
because
pacing
of
of it is excellent.
because of how famous each and every scene almost is. So
And I even put like the opening scene where ET is just exploring his surroundings, and then the chase happens. I thought it has a very good, and it goes back to John Williams' score. It has a very good chase element to it. So
yep. So if anybody out there has any favorite scenes from ET or wants to give out their star rating, send us an email, cinemen921@gmail.com. Let us know your star rating for ET. I'm gonna give this movie a 9. Um, to me, it's a damn near perfect '80s sci-fi movie. Um, like I said, to me, it's one of those. It's like a family member. You love your family member, but you're not in love with your family member. So
yeah,
that's how I feel about this movie. I love it. It's a classic. It's a timeless classic, but I'm not in love with it. It's not a go-to for me.
yeah,
And I think it's just because I don't have any sentimental value to it. So, but still, it's a 9. It's a pretty big score.
yeah.
So, what about you, Zach?
I'm gonna give it a 10. Like I said, I could see. I have it in my top 5 Spielberg films. I can understand if this was your favorite Spielberg movie. I understand. I completely get it. Um, Spielberg's direction, the John Williams score, the performances. E.T. himself, I thought was interesting because you could tell the difference. You could probably tell the difference on the 4K version between the animatronic E.T. and then like the man in a suit
Oh
E.T.,
yeah.
which it's kind of funny to point those scenes out. Um, but yeah, it's just a great movie and definitely a top 80s film for sure. And the funny thing is like when you Google, just put in Steven Spielberg movies, the Fablemans is Fablemans is the first one that pops up probably because it's just his most recent one. Jaws, Schindler's List, E.T., Jurassic Park, and Raiders are like the top 4 that come up. So I mean, I think people would agree that's definitely one that it's one of his lovable films. So, but next
Definitely.
week, guys,
It seems like we've been talking about this movie since 2018. But next week we go back to the movie theater to check out The Flash. Um, Ezra Miller, Michael Keaton, Andy Machete, Michael Keaton. Um,
you're just gonna keep singing Michael Keaton for the
Michael
next
Keaton.
like 3 minutes.
Michael Keaton's in this movie. Um, you already got tickets, Zach. What do you think?
Yeah, we're going Saturday afternoon. The movie's almost 2.5 hours long, so I just hope I hope we get some clarification of where we're going in the DC, because this is their chance just to kind of do the Flashpoint thing and just reset the whole deck. And I think it's going to be awesome to see Michael Keaton as Batman again. I know you never thought that day would happen, so you're just going to be like clenching your butt cheeks the entire time. So
And then also Ben Affleck's in the movie.
yeah.
I don't know if there's going to be any other cameos that we might see. What did you think about news breaking this week about the Joel Schumacher director's cut of Batman Forever? Which
is that worthy of an episode?
That made me think about just doing Batman Forever and as an episode entirely, because we've already done Batman and Batman Returns.
Which one is Forever? Is that the one with Schwarzenegger?
No, that's the one with Jim Carrey. Schwarzenegger's Batman and Robin.
Okay, so Forever.
Forever has Tommy Lee Jones, Jim Carrey, Val Kilmer.
Yeah. So I don't want to say this because I know what's going to happen to me. I've never seen Forever, and I've never seen Batman and Robin. And those are just two that I just heard they're just like the worst ones ever. So just like I've just been told to avoid them. So
guess what's coming in July, Zach?
Move over, Oppenheimer. We got Batman and Robin to talk about.
Move over, John Wick Chapter 4. No. Which, I mean, it's going to be a fun month. There's still 5 Wednesdays in July. Next week on the 21st, we're talking about The Flash. And then 2 weeks from today on the 28th, we're talking about Wall-E. So,
yeah,
should be some fun conversations until The Flash. Oh, next week's top 5. We are talking about top 5 recasts. Was it a good idea or a bad idea? So it can be a good or bad one, Zach, whichever one you decide to put in your top 5. Just because of the news of them maybe recasting The Flash. Andy Muschietti says if they do a sequel, he's not recasting. So I thought it'd be fun to talk about a recast. For example, Batman Forever. Val Kilmer is recast as Batman. So I think that should be a fun top 5 list, something we don't think we've ever done. So yeah, that's next week. Any final thoughts on E.T. before we move on to The Flash?
No, just go see it. If you're a Spielberg fan, if you're a movie fan, if you enjoy films of the 80s, I think it's definitely worth your time and effort. So,
all right, guys, go see E.T. June 11th was its 41st anniversary. And then you know what? Starting tomorrow night, you can go see The Flash in theaters. Go see The Flash, and then come back next Wednesday and join us for an episode as we talk all about The Flash and our top 5 recasts on a brand new episode of the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. That was The Flash, right? Right there.
There you go.
Yeah. Next week, The Flash. Have a good week, guys. Michael Keaton.